Oh man, are you ready for a Zen rant? Because you're gonna get a Zen rant. Oh gosh, I have a lot to say right now. All of a sudden, I have a lot to say. But first, oh, we can't get that hidden cache, that's right. But first, I want to go different directions, probably down this way first and then this way. Yes, okay. We need to scan corpses. So, interestingly enough, there was a blog post that went up today from the Mass Effect team, of course. How do I get in there? I guess I could just fall in from above. Or I can go in this way, that works. Let's kill these things. Blast our way through real quick. Boop, boop, boop. It's interesting that I'm just kind of coming in from the back here. Surprise. Hello. Why is it not shooting? Why wasn't it shooting? Oh, that's my own dude. That's why. Get wrecked. Wait, how did that... There we go. Hey, you. Hey, you. I'm just trying to live here, man. I'm just trying to live. No, you don't. Fire combo OP. Hello. Sucked for him. Come on, just die. Thank you. Shot him in the butt. That's how we do it. That's typical me. Not nearly out of the ordinary when it comes to how I tend to kill enemies in these games. Shoot them in the butt or stab them in the butt.
I think we need to look around for more symbols.
Oh, okay. It's right. It's one of those. Apparently there's still enemies out there, but I want to talk to this guy.
I appreciate the assistance, but you need to leave.
I've done this before.
I've got experience with remnant tech. I know what I'm doing. Mostly.
This isn't Ryder's first model.
How is that possible?
It'll be easier to show you.
Yeah, stand back and let the professional work. So there was a blog post that went up today from BioWare themselves. And in the blog post, it straight up says they are confirming in the blog post that there will be no single player DLC for this game. The story of Andromeda,
that should complete the glyphs, Pathfinder.
As far as single player content is done, there will be some comics and novels and stuff continuing that story, and some of the multiplayer patches will also add to that game.
Good one, Ryder.
Did I do it? I hear Inception music. Did I do it? Should I talk to you again? No? Okay, you don't want to be like, you actually did do it. Lol. So we know that there's no more single player content coming now, and that's fine. I guess that's to be assumed with how the game was received post-launch. Come on, please. Thank you. And honestly, like I said, I'm not surprised by it, but I am very disappointed. And it's simply because a lot of people, and I actually am not joking when I say this, the majority of people really like Andromeda. Isn't that weird? A lot of people don't, but they are not the majority of the people who picked up the game. The majority of the people who picked up the game actually kind of find it fun. Like it. It's different. It's not Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3. It's definitely its own thing. But a lot of people like it. And a very vocal minority of not your typical consumer.
We found all we can. Let's get back to Scenarios.
And what I mean by that is, honestly, let's just call it as it is, streamers. don't like this game because their friends told them that they shouldn't like it. I've got a lot to say on that in a moment because, oh my gosh, do I have a rant and it's pissing me off. So this game was dead in the water the moment it launched because of some of the issues it had, such as some weird graphical stuff or facial animation stuff. And if this were literally any other game, if this was called Joe Schmo Explores the Galaxy with space sex, it would have been extremely well received. People would have loved it. There would have been no issue there. But the fact that it says Mass Effect on the tin, people got really butthurt when certain things didn't go the way they wanted it to, even though
Looks like those exiles stole
that's
the
exactly what happened with Dragon Age Inquisition. You know what? Dragon Age Inquisition, a massively well-received game, despite some people not liking the open worldness to it or the bad quests. Still, you don't hear people saying how much they hate Dragon Age Inquisition every day. And yet, anywhere you go where people are talking about Mass Effect, there's always one guy who's probably only played about 20 minutes of the game, if they've even played it at all, saying how bad the game is. Very interesting, huh? I have a theory on that. Should probably talk about the blog post first. There's no more single player stuff. That's fine. Is there going to be another Mass Effect game? Yeah, this is a franchise BioWare is not going to let go. Actually, I'm going to say that differently. This is a franchise EA is not going to let go. This is a moneymaker for him. Despite the fact that this apparently has a lot of bad press around it, even though the game is critically well received and pretty loved around the actual fans of Mass Effect. It's just very interesting to me how you look at the state of the game, not this game in general, but like Mass Effect, the state of the what's the word I'm looking for? The franchise. It's fine, you know. It's not. It's a bump, but it's fine. Like there's going to be no issues with the franchise. So we're going to see another Mass Effect game, and the fact that they've stated that the Andromeda story will continue in extended universe stuff, essentially, is interesting because that's a sign that it says that they are going to continue to tell this story because they put a lot of time and effort into it, and they probably have a lot of ideas of what stories can be told, and probably have an idea of what DLC they were going to do, and they're just going to turn that into extended universe stuff, you know, right? Like the books and the comics and multiplayer DLC, apparently.
Approaching that point for the weapons cache, Pathfinder.
My theory now is that BioWare is going to be or I shouldn't say BioWare, because again, I think that this is going to change, especially with recent news of BioWare Montreal being kind of merged or absorbed by Massive. And again, Massive is the company that is making Battlefront 2, which, by the way, looks fantastic. It actually looks very, very good. They've learned their lesson, it appears, from the previous games, and I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of what they do with Battlefront 2. We're doing a series on that, so we'll see. And I'll check it out in the beta, obviously. Oh my. Let's just put this up. Do that. Load real quick. We need some shields, so we're gonna combo. Wait, why is it not? That was weird. It wasn't doing it. I was holding the button. Hey, you. Why don't you come back here so I can take care of you? Wait, I thought Vetra was down. She's clearly up. the icon shows her as down. Yeah, we'll take you out. Fire combo OP. But so is Reflect. Come on, shoot me. Shoot me. No? We did it. So my theory is essentially that we're going to see a very interesting thing happen within BioWare at the moment. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either the studio that was absorbed, so BioWare Montreal, is either going to be working with Massive on a new Star Wars game.
It's full. After that ambush, I thought the whole thing was a scam.
Let's just get out of here before more exiles show.
Actually, I take that back. 3 things. I just added one. 3 things could happen. First thing, either they're going to work on a new Star Wars game, probably an RPG, which would be fantastic. Doesn't matter if it's KOTOR or not. A new Star Wars RPG would be fantastic. And I would be very hyped for that, especially because Massive has the Star Wars thing on lock, right? They've done a very good job with Battlefront 2, but we know DLC's coming for that. That's why I add a third thing there. We'll talk about the third thing in a second. So they have the Star Wars thing on lock, whereas BioWare Montreal had a lot of the RPG systems of the Frostbite engine kind of under wraps. You know, say what you want about Andromeda, it plays very well for an RPG. So that said, it would be cool to see a Star Wars RPG. I would really, really enjoy it. That's number one. Number two, they're just there to help wrap up Battlefront 2 and make some DLC. That's probably the most likely scenario and most unfortunate scenario. Number three, most unlikely scenario, but most wanted scenario to some degree for Mass Effect fans is Massive and Montreal are working on a new Mass Effect game. That would be sick. I think Massive would take to that very well, and I think they could help make a very good Mass Effect game. So that's kind of the state of Mass Effect at the moment. We're going to get another game eventually, and I kind of hope that it's Massive making the game. I think that would be really sweet. But that was the last single player patch. Oh my gosh, that was so annoying. Last single player patch. There's like a weird micro stutter going on. I don't know if you can tell a micro stutter going on since the patch that we actually just got, which is a little frustrating, but it's only, whoa, it's only happening in certain areas, so I'm kind of okay with that. It's consistently inconsistent, which is fine. Is there anything in here before I go wandering off? No, okay. So that's what leads me into my rant, is this blog post going up. This game is a pretty good game. It's not a perfect game, so Mass Effect 2, even though Mass Effect 3, I think Mass Effect 3 was really good, despite people hating the ending. That also brings me into kind of the same thing I'm about to say, of how I am really beginning to loathe, notice how I use like a very specific word there, loathe hyperbole. Because people will, you ask anyone who's played through Mass Effect 3, and they will tell you 2 things. Number one, it's not as good as Mass Effect 2. That's fine. That's understandable. Mass Effect 2 was really good. But they will also tell you that they hate the ending. That's like the 2 consistent things that you'll hear with Mass Effect 3. And then you ask them, oh, well, you know, as a whole, what did you think of Mass Effect 3? Like, outside of those 2 things, they'll be like, oh, it's pretty good. Played better than Mass Effect 2. You're like, oh, that's really interesting. So it's not a bad game. You just didn't like the ending, and you felt like Mass Effect 2 was a better game. Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, okay. Strange. Because, like, just a minute ago, you said you hated Mass Effect 3. And that's when you always catch them in the trap. Every person I've ever talked to Mass Effect 3 about states that exact same thing. Didn't like Mass Effect 3. Bad game. Oh, what didn't you like about it? Ah, the ending was kind of bad. I didn't like the ending. Gameplay-wise? What about that? Oh, totally played better than Mass Effect 2. So I guess that part was fun. Really interesting. So it's not very much a bad game. It's just that you hate the ending. And that's it. That's all that is. Very, very interesting little dynamic that goes on there is the hyperbole of how people say, I hate something. I think it's awful. It's the worst game I've ever played. And yet, it's not. When you actually get down to the bones of it, and you ask them exactly what's going on. In no situation Is that ever actually the case of what they're trying to say? Starting to piss me off because that's happening more and more in games lately. And here's my hypothesis. I believe fully that is what killed Andromeda. I think Andromeda is a fine game. I think a few people's hyperbole killed the game. I know that's kind of weird to put it on the actual players of the game, or rather, not the players of the game. The gaming personalities are what killed the game. I think normal players find the game just fine. Had some performance issues at launch, a lot of performance issues at launch, but have since been fixed. A lot of people forgave that. And honestly, select people who streamed the game saying, this is the worst game I've ever played, and pointing out all this stuff and posting all these gifs of, like, honestly, things that were going to get fixed and did get fixed. Like a week later, 2 weeks later, when patches hit and fixed a lot of the animation stuff. And then a couple weeks later after that, hey, look, all the animation stuff is fixed. Oh, really weird, huh? It's interesting how you could just patch a game and fix a ton of stuff. Not a big issue. And yet, these people hammered these issues into the ground by consistently saying it's the worst game. It's such a bad game. And they were speaking hyperbolic about it. When in reality, Mass Effect Andromeda is a fine game. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It has its issues, but it's no Mass Effect 2. Like if I had to say that. And critically, which you shouldn't always trust the actual critics, but if you go to any review site, and a lot of people have some really stupid ideas that reviewers are have their hands exchanging money between publishers to give them good reviews. That's not the case. I actually know a few reviewers, and they're not like that at all. So don't put that on them. Maybe some sites are, but.
Do you have the locations of the victims? It's the only way to make sure justice is served.
Or you could give the data to me for a quick reward. Something real.
No, I just want justice.
Someone has to be held accountable for these murders.
Thank you. A civilization is nothing without justice.
So, what this leads me on to is that I am actually in the full belief that because in that little trial period that the game had with Origin, and when a ton of streamers streamed the game and hated on it heavily, it did two things. One, people didn't purchase it because they said, oh, this is a bad game, even though they never played it for themselves. And you know what? Most of those streamers didn't get past 10 hours into the game, which is unfortunate. And this is something that we're seeing more and more lately.
With Kadara's factions, Pathfinder. Its owners are likely criminal class.
You're just going about the criminals again there, Sam, and it's okay. We're seeing this a lot lately where gaming personalities are, not even personalities, streamers actually, this is becoming a problem, are making or breaking a game based on a couple hours of impressions. And not all streamers are like this. Don't let me just blanket that statement, right? But a lot of the bigger ones are. And there are plenty of people out there who can look at a game objectively and be like, that's cool. Or, okay, that's fine. But to say that Mass Effect Andromeda is a bad game, man, these people don't know what a bad game is. Have you ever played Aquaman? I think it was on the PlayStation 2. I believe it was on the PlayStation 2. Maybe PlayStation. Yes, I believe it was on PlayStation 2. Probably PlayStation 3. It was one of those. I think it was PlayStation 2. Gosh, I don't remember where I played it. I just remember renting it. That was a bad game. It was legitimately broken. You couldn't actually finish it.
Back again?
Or play it. Period.
That nav point was a setup.
Setup? Was the cache not there?
Yeah, but so were a lot of exiles who tried to kill me.
I'm not responsible for the actions of my other customers.
Other customers?
I may have sold the nav point to multiple people, but in my defense, I didn't think you'd all show up at once.
Oh, great. That makes it all better then.
I don't see why you're so upset. You got your weapons, and you survived. But I don't like unhappy customers. I'll give you a discount for your trouble.
You better.
That's more than fair.
Well, more than fair. I don't know for that. We're gonna sell all my salvage, and you know we're gonna take these paint jobs because they're pretty cool. What else does she have? Okay, not a lot. A lot of crafting material, but I think that's fine. Give me those paint jobs. So to, I guess, wrap up my thoughts on this, I think Andromeda was a fine game. Andromeda had a bright future ahead of it as far as potential other games and DLC, and it was ruined by the fact that some people hated on the game, so nobody bought it, even though the game was pretty much fine. Outside of that first week, the game was fine, which is really disappointing. And it's pissing me off because I'm noticing this more and more with other games too. It's not just Mass Effect, where people speak hyperbolic about something, say it's the worst game they've ever played, and it kills the game. And you're not just messing with a game. You know, a game is an inanimate object. It doesn't feel feelings. The game doesn't care whether or not you like it or not. But the developers who are making the game, and they make a pretty okay game, you know, it's nothing to write home about, Andromeda, but it's a good game in the sense that it's better than a lot of other garbage that's putting up on Steam lately, right? It's pissing me off because these people who are making this game, you're messing with their lives by trying to gain viewers by being hyperbolic, and it's pissing me off. It's something that is really irking me lately. And what I want to say before I go over to this quest and get interrupted by some random encounter is that lately I put up a video on No Man's Sky with patch 1.3. That is a game that got absolutely slammed. It's probably the best case that I have against, you know, this lately, where that game was actually bad at launch and got completely slammed, and deservedly it did. But it was still not a bad game. It was just not what people wanted. And over three patches now, 3 major patches, it has grown into a really good game. Patch 1.3 for No Man's Sky has turned this game into the game that everybody wanted at launch. And it's really, really good. And all of the reviews for recent reviews on Steam have completely shifted. People are getting back into the game, and it went right back up to the top selling list. Because they continued to be persistent and patch that game. Andromeda had that potential in it, with a good single-player DLC that really mixes things up and could completely change everything. It had that option, and it's never going to get that now because of unfair treatment to the game. And I feel that that is super unfair to us as the consumers and the people who love Mass Effect, really. And it's super unfair to the developers because they had more stories to be told. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off that is the case. But at the end of the day, we're not getting any more single-player content for this game. Mass Effect isn't dead. We'll see more Mass Effect in the future. I'm just really frustrated that we're not getting more Mass Effect in the near future because people like to hate on things when they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And it's getting really, really frustrating. And I don't have any way to fix any of that. Like, I wish I could have a way to go out and start altering that perception on games, like getting rid of the hyperbolic nature of people's statements on things. This is the best game ever, or this is the worst game ever. Like, when I say that Life is Strange is one of my favorite games of all time because it is a fantastic game, that is not me being hyperbolic. That is me literally saying that is a fantastic game. Everyone needs to play it. And when I say that No Man's Sky launched in a terrible state and was an awful mess at the beginning, but is now a fantastic game and everybody should give a chance, is a thing, again, that I am not saying hyperbolically. I am actually stating that. But you can't trust people who speak in absolutes. This is absolutely the worst game I've ever played, and this is absolutely the best game I've ever played. Because that's not true, you know? And I just wish that Mass Effect Andromeda had another chance. But now it doesn't. But that doesn't change the fact that we're going to play through this entire game and 100% it because this game freaking deserves it. And I am looking forward to doing so.